U.S. Representative Michelle Lujan Grisham sent a letter last week to the Department of Energy asking the federal government to stop giving Albuquerque Police Department officers access to an elite training facility at Kirtland Air Force Base. She called it, quote, military-style training, end quote, and she's not the only one who has used the word militarization to describe APD, certainly. The department told the Albuquerque Journal it plans to continue using that facility. And Laura, you know, it's interesting. Let's start with that word militarization and militarize. Is that an accurate assessment from the Congresswoman? Is she quite right to call
I mean,
that?
I think we've seen examples of that, absolutely. And I think it hasn't just been here in New Mexico, it's been across the country that we've seen examples of that. And I think that's an adequate word, especially for the type of training that the National Training Center does in that facility.
Interesting. Rob, the police department says, look, you know, it's fairly benign. People come from all over the country. We do regular type training. What was your sense of that?
Yeah, I think I, along with a lot of people, didn't even know about this Coyote Canyon training facility at all. I've been a pretty vocal critic about the militarization of police. And Channel 13 quoted one former officer saying that he didn't know how to convey. I'm not sure how convoy ambushing translates into working as a police officer.
Right.
But having said that, though, I didn't know anything about this training facility. I don't think very many other people knew about this training facility. The APD people say that the APD instructors do all of this work. So we're sort of flying blind in this.
That sort of raises a question, don't you think, about, like, so, okay, that's fine that it's APD instructors who are doing it, but are APD instructors teaching convoy, you know, attack kind of stuff? The facility is a symbol, I think, for the type of training that APD is getting and also the type of equipment that APD is getting. And we've certainly had this conversation at this table, and it's a conversation that's happening nationally. When warfare-style equipment is going to local police departments, and then it sounds like they're getting training on that, which we want training, but it raises this question of, like, what about the whole picture, the guns, the training, the armored vehicles, et cetera? I think that Representative Lujan Grisham is pointing to one element, but we see this much larger problem.
Let me read you a quote from the Congresswoman. It's interesting. She's talking about the NTC, the National Training Center. The NTC uses highly trained instructors to provide military-style training to federal agents and members of the military to ensure that our nation's nuclear weapons and facilities are safe and secure. While I understand the necessity of that type of training for nuclear security personnel, I question the value of extending the same training in DOE resources to local law enforcement agencies. Now, that's interesting there. She's talking about really a very clear mix of missions when you're talking about this type of training. Does it sound like a conflict when you hear about DOE type things and weapons?
It could be, but on the other hand, again, I've been a critic of the over-militarization. You know, Barney Fife with with an AK-47 sort of police training that we're seeing, or police activity that we're seeing. But on the other hand, to be fair though, the Department of Justice took a look at the Albuquerque Police Department pretty closely and made no mention of this.
That's fair. Yeah.
So.
Interesting. Senator, what do you make of that? That's an interesting point that Rob brings up. The DOJ didn't have a problem with it. Should we?
Well, you know, I agree with Rob about over-militarization of APD, and we, you know, reforms need to be put in place, and I think they're in process. However, I think any professional needs as much training as they can get.
Okay.
I mean, the reality is, you know, the police department, 97% of what they do is public safety. You know, it's the stuff we can all agree on. The reality is bad guys are militarized.
Right.
You know, I mean, we have gang activity in Albuquerque that's militarized. So if you have law enforcement professionals dealing with that kind of incident, not every day, but at some time in their career, they need that kind of training. I mean, the state police has gone through this training, you know, the sheriff's department's gone through this training and so forth. I don't have a problem with our law enforcement professionals having that kind of training.
But to Sophie's point about who's doing the actual training, do you have a sense of that as well? If it's guys just doing the regular thing, it just happens to be about the location that gives angst, that's one thing. But if the training's a little squirrely, do you have a thought on that as well? Is that something that concerns you?
Well,
the type of training?
Yeah, and no,
Okay.
not the type of training,
Okay.
but my understanding is it's about using the facilities and having APD training, and then it's about using the facilities and having the elite type of training. I mean, my guess is that that's not training they're getting every day, week after week. It's a tiny bit of training for professionals who might have to deal with that kind of incident in the future. So I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah. Is it, Laura, is the fact that maybe SWAT and these elite groups have been tainted a bit by the DOJ report, that we're hearing a problem where perhaps there might not be? These folks have to train somewhere. You have to train SWAT people somewhere. So it's not necessarily evil just on its face, right? I mean,
Well, I don't think that they've been tainted. I mean, I think that the report speaks for itself. It's a reflection of what's been occurring, and I think it's important for us to
That's a good
keep
distinction.
it in that context. And for me, the important thing is what kind of training are you actually getting, and how much of that is spent on de-escalation procedures? Because it seems to me that a lot of the incidents that we've seen, there has been a failure to invoke some de-escalation process to try to keep it from exceeding a certain point. And not knowing specifically what kind of training is going on in there. I think the facility itself and the objection that the Congresswoman has is just the use of those federal resources where those kinds of training, for elite and federal law enforcement, and certainly the national security issue of keeping our nuclear weapons, safe and secure. That's very different than the type of training the APD should be getting. And so whether it's just happening at the facility or whether they're actually getting other kinds of training, I think is a question that I certainly don't have the answer to, but I think that's an important area for the Congresswoman to raise and look into. It's appropriate.
Sophie, were you surprised that it came out at all from the Congresswoman? I mean, this is really, there's an interesting, she's got one foot in federal stuff in the ask saying we should not do this, and one foot in local stuff saying we shouldn't make the ask.
That's a really interesting question. I mean, given that this is her district,
Right.
I think to a certain extent, and the fact that she represents the people who are interacting with APD on a regular basis.
That's right.
Of any national, anybody we send to DC, she is the one who should be engaged in this conversation. It is a big conversation. DOJ is involved. There is federal involvement. I am pleased actually to see that the Congresswoman is taking a close look at it.
Interesting, Senator, there's been a lot of our current federal senators have been active on local issues. We had Senator Udall addressing our legislature, and we've had all kinds of different things from our national folks. Do you see a trend here? Is something happening here where a lot of our federal folks are feeling freer to talk about local issues, quote unquote?
Well, I mean, our delegation has a different political slant now than it did several years ago, and I think that kind of factors into the whole process. I mean, the reality is that our Congress, our Congress people have, they have full-time staff. I mean, that's the difference. Citizen legislators don't get paid and they don't have staff. I mean, they have dozens of people working full-time on a variety of issues. It doesn't surprise me that,
Constituent services, you think of that, people are probably bringing it up to them, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me a bit. And if nothing else, it engages the community, gets a little bit of publicity, asks questions. Maybe there's no resolution, but I think that's a job of a congressperson to, to represent their constituents.
Well, she got the district's attention on this one, that's for sure. Now, we have to end it there. Join us online at NewMexicoInFocus.org to hear more from this week's line panelists. Thanks for joining us today, and as always, we appreciate your time and your effort to stay informed and engaged. I'm Gene Grant. We'll see you next week in Focus, and as they say in Vulcan, live long and prosper.